How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Big Trouble in Little China, Volume 5. This one is titled Big Trouble in Little Heaven. Now, I've reviewed all the previous ones of this, and I was super excited to get to Volume 5. It did take me a minute to get to this, but glad to pick it up when I finally did. We get this really cool orange cover there. Jack Burton with his gun, big hands, and these mysterious faces. This is, of course, just a cover image. It's not really what goes on in the book, but you get the back with this picture of Jack, and the tagline for this one, Jack is Wild. Once again, brought to us by Boom Studios for $16.99. Let's go ahead and flip this open. You get the title page there. Focus. And then we get the information and credits. If we flip to this copyright information, we can see, right here, that this volume collects issues 17 through 20, so another 4 issues of this comic. And we look at the credits and we see Big Trouble in Little China, the continuing adventures of Jack Burton and Winona Chi. So if you remember, that had previously said the Pork Chop Express, and then in Volume 4, when he traveled through time, that was crossed out, and now we have and Winona Chi. Fred Van Lente is the writer. He's the writer of the last volume as well. This second act of the series. This time around, the artist has changed to Dan McDaid, and he does kind of different artwork. The last 2 artists have gone for this cartoony style. His is a little bit more grungy, and we'll see the difference in the artwork when we go in. And the colorist is still Gonzalo Duarte, same as, I think, the whole series. Letterer Ed Dukeshire, and cover by Eric Powell. So Eric Powell is still doing the cover there. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens in this book. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the plot a little bit. That being said, no major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points, as well as make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what this book's about. Now, that being said, no spoilers for Volume 5, but when talking about the plot, I am going to spoil both the events of Volumes 1 through 4, and I might talk about stuff from the movie as well, so spoilers for the movie and all the past volumes. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We open up with a little catch-up as to where Margot is, and she's there taking notes, and you see there's this guy, the new bad guy for this volume. I think his name is Koji. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this, but the Deathless, and he's making Margot be his biographer, and he's lived for hundreds and hundreds of years, so the biography is taking forever, and he's sort of just forcing her to write down all the stuff about his life. And you see they're going to a sorcerer convention, and throughout this volume, all the different sorcerers, you will notice some Easter eggs and some callbacks to pop culture. That guy's cloak looks a little bit like Doctor Strange. You get, of course, a mummy and some people that look a little bit like the Harry Potter characters. So yeah, some callbacks there. But we get to find out. Ooh, there's the eyeball monster from the movie. I really do like him. But we get to catch up with the main characters here. You see Jack Burton, Wang, and Winona are on a plane, and they're going to this convention, which is held in this casino, which is owned by Wang's ex-wife's new husband, and of course he's afraid to go there, so he's been taking a bunch of drugs to calm him down, so he's a little loopy this issue. But yeah, they're going to the convention. They're in Gracie's private jet to get there, and she had to score them all passes, so Gracie's the reason they're able to do all this, and she has her little pilot cap with a G on top of it. But it gives you a little flashback. In the previous volume, they had done all this work to get the Pork Chop Express back. When they come back, they find that Eddie's finally tracked Margot down and drugged Wang to get a bunch of money to go save her, and they have to go find Wang now. Not Wang, Eddie. They're trying to find Eddie. They don't believe they'll actually find Margot, but of course we know from the prologue that she's going to be there. The bad guy is one of the head speakers at this convention. You get a really long speech from him, but eventually, of course, flip to it. There we go. The main team gets to the casino this conference is held at, the Kunlun Casino, and Gracie basically explains they kind of call this place Little Heaven, hence the title, but it's this casino, and people get in on the ground floor of the casino, and you can work your way up to more and more exclusive levels, but when you get to the very top, that's the Immortal level, where all the immortals hang out, and it's a very, very private place and hard to get into. Eddie tries to get Margot back and is chased by the bad guy's henchmen, which can turn into these crazy giant bears, and the team finds Eddie in trouble, and they of course start to fight back when the villain shows up, and they find that he has the contract for Margot and won't simply let her go, which all culminates in them challenging him to Texas Hold'em in order to win her back, but they can't just challenge him. They have to go all throughout this tournament in order to get their way up to fighting him. So it's kind of turns into a card battler game issue. Overall, I'm not the biggest casino fan, so I wasn't as into this, but as the book goes on, you get more and more into the magical stuff, and it is more interesting, I feel, as it goes on. But if you don't know about Texas Hold'em, you actually get a fun little cameo from the Storms, the rules of Texas Hold'em presented by the Storms, and it's this whole thing where you could probably learn how to play the entire game just from their little monologue there, and you get to see the whole, well, not the whole game play out, you get to see a lot of the game play out, and you get to see this other double page spread where Jack is going up against all these opponents, and you get to meet them, and he has to beat them all at cards. Now, funnily enough, despite explaining a lot of the rules to Texas Hold'em, the colorist painted the chips kind of randomly, and I mean, I guess you could stack them in that way, but that's mixing up your denominations of chips, and it'd be harder to count out, how much you needed if you were to scramble up all the chips like that. But it looks more visually interesting, I guess. And then you get to see the Harry Potter-like character, which is going to be one of your main antagonists for this comic. But yeah, some pretty cool stuff. They also reference earlier in the book that Winona's sister left with her mother and is living with the stepfather, and Winona hasn't seen her sister in a long time, and she refers to her sister as the evil twin, and she is not really too excited to see her, but they actually do play this in a really interesting way. You get to find out the backstory between the two girls isn't that simple, and it's actually one of my favorite parts of this story was to see Winona play off her twin sister there, and it all pans out into what I think is a pretty fun reveal. And it's not just, oh, my evil twin sister. It's a little bit more than that, and I thought these two characters were really great together. And I won't spoil it, but Winona at the end of this book does get a pretty fun costume, so that was pretty cool. Overall, I like where this book got to. It's the first issue, though, and that's sort of the thing with this volume, is all the Big Trouble in Little China books were, continued one after the next, and you really had this momentum that made you want to read and read and read. The last one, it kind of got wrapped up, and then the Eddie stuff came in like right at the last minute. And when I got into this, I was like, okay, what are we doing again? Which was never a feeling that I had in a Big Trouble in Little China book before. I always remembered exactly what was going on, and I always wanted to get right back into there. But this one, it's like kind of a subplot, and I was like, what were we doing? Oh yeah, Eddie and Margot. It wasn't all this giant, plot, and you're like trying to barely keep up with it, as everything's kind of snowballing. Here, it takes a minute to get back into it. Like I said earlier, I'm not super big into gambling or casino culture, so I wasn't immediately hooked by that. And also the villain for this, some people might like him. I wasn't too big a fan of him, but I mentioned this briefly earlier, if I can find the page again. He talks a lot, and this is one thing with comics is when you have just a picture, you read through it faster, and unlike a movie, the weird thing with comics is when you put more dialogue on the page, it takes longer to read it, and in turn, someone talking a lot can actually really slow down the pacing. So if he talks, it quite literally slows down time, and there's so much of this book where you have to sit and read through his long, drawn-out speeches, which they're kind of funny and wacky, but they do kind of take forever to get through. By the end of this book, though, it wasn't so much, you do step away from him for a bit, and you do get into it, and, you get Wang and his ex-wife, you get Winona and her sister, you get the return of an old character that I was really glad to see show up, but I won't spoil it for you. And when it gets into the wacky Big Trouble in Little China stuff, it really drew me back in. But it was that first issue in this volume of, okay, this is the new plot arc, okay, we're going to a casino, okay, this villain's kind of so-so. But after that first issue, once I got through that, the second, third, and fourth issue just really pulled me back in. So I will say this is one of the... I like the older volumes better, but this is still good. It's just I wasn't immediately grabbed by it. But once it pulled me in and you got into that stuff, and Winona's sister is a really fun character, and when you got to see the upper levels of this casino and you got more into the crazy monsters and stuff, there's some pretty cool gags and fights and some crazy stuff going on, and a little fun magical twist. And this place, this volume rather, does end on a good classic Big Trouble in Little China comics cliffhanger, and I'm really glad that I got issue 6 sitting on the shelf over there, because it's one of those cliffhangers, and I'm wanting to really read it, because the place where this one seems to be going for the next volume is really interesting, and I'm really wanting to pick up volume 6 now. That's the classic Big Trouble in Little China cliffhanger storytelling that all the other volumes had, which was kind of jarring because between 4 and 5 it didn't have that as big. It was still kind of there, but not as big. But that being said, issue 6 is actually the last of this run, not the last of the Big Trouble in Little China comics overall. You still have the Big Trouble in Little China Escape from New York crossover, and we got 3 volumes of Big Trouble in Little China Old Man Jack to read through. So even after 6, there's still 4 more books, but the main run, I believe, ends at 6, unless, I just missed something. But anyway, a cool book. Not as good as the others probably, but I still got into it after issue 1. But I still like the classic stuff. The first 3 are the best. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You are really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom where you can find the reviews for the other Big Trouble in Little China books in that playlist. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom.